All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the December 9th, 2025 Wood Village Council meeting. If I could get a council member to read the land acknowledgement, please.
Well, I'm happy to read it. That will be. The Chinookan peoples, known as the Clackamas and Cascades, are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakli was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardship from the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas in the high Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty in 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Excuse me. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many indigenous Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of the many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored to be guests upon these lands.
Thank you. Now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Now we'll go ahead and citizens' comments on non-agenda items.
There were no comments submitted.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move to public safety report with our chief.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
So November was pretty good for the city. There were no major crimes. The only call really of note that kind of made the news was that car crashing into, and that was kind of a dispute between a employee there and her boyfriend, and he was arrested, taken to jail for hit and run and the damage to the building. So that's kind of over with. Let's see. There were 12 crashes reported during the month. 3 of them were on the interstate, and then 3 were hit and runs. The only real crash of note, they were all pretty minor, was the 23rd, I think Saturday night, early Sunday morning, was a DUI crash. And neither party was seriously injured though, but the car ran a red light going pretty fast, but luckily nobody got seriously hurt. During the month of November, deputies spent a lot of time in Wood Village. There were 233 self-initiated contacts, and that includes 134 traffic stops. On Black Friday, deputies supported business in Walmart as a visual presence to deter crime during the busy shopping day. During the proactive patrols, there were no reported thefts. There were also no stolen vehicles during the month. And then just coming up this Friday, deputies are going to be conducting targeted enforcement in Wood Village, focusing primarily on traffic violations and other kind of livability issues in the city.
What was that number again of the self-initiated?
So there were 233 self-initiated contacts. And so traffic stops, going out with suspicious vehicles.
I was trying to find the numbers, but that sounds significantly higher. So what I mean,
yeah, I think there was a lot of traffic stops. I think that really carried it for the most part. But typically,
136. I see 161.
Yeah,
and you guys, that's great.
Yeah,
it'd be nice if you could do that all the time.
I know, right? We try to get them. We get some grants from time to time from NHTSA, the Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and they will typically go in the busier areas of Wood Village and Troutdale and Fairview and try to do as much as they can in those areas. Any other questions or anything?
I do have a question. This morning, and I think it was shortly before noon, there was a notice that went out that ICE was up at this Wood Village Starbucks.
Okay.
When that happens, is the county sheriff's office informed, or is that news to you just like it is everybody else?
That one is news to me.
And I don't know. I've not confirmed that.
Yeah, if it's confirmed, a lot of times they don't really notify us. They kind of just call our dispatch center, BOIC, and they'll say like, we're in this area doing surveillance, and that's basically all it says. Because we don't,
But you're not aware of,
I'm not aware. I mean, we don't assist them and we're not,
right?
And they don't really notify.
You know, what I didn't, and like I said, I was out of the house. My wife heard it or saw it on, that, whatever that neighborhood,
Next door.
next door. And said, just announcing that ICE is currently at Starbucks, so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge, but
Kind of in line with that, over the weekend, I've had several community members ask me what can they do when other community members, threaten to call immigration on no basis. So what can community members do in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, depending on kind of the severity and what the situation is, it could be considered harassment or, even like a bias crime if they're, doing something against them based on their ethnicity or immigration status or things like that. So, I mean, if it's rising to that level where it's really bothering them and it's interfering with their lives, I mean, they can call non-emergency or, or if it's happening right there, and it is an emergency, they can call 911.
So just the level of, kind of like their interpretation on like the threat.
Right. And, that would be case by case basis on what, is going on. But typically, there's no grounds. I don't know that there really is like a hotline or, they can just call and try to get someone in trouble in that way. I don't think that's really how it works, but
Yeah.
so it's probably baseless for the most part, but if they're, being harassed by someone, they can definitely call.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is there a point where there's a false report? Is that a complaint, a false report? Would that be an act of, is that on the books, violating any statute to call the police and make false reports?
That would only be as if like the person making the report would be doing the false report. That would be through like the 911 dispatch.
Yeah.
I don't know how the federal system would work. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, in response to, if a person is getting false reports made about them, and that if that was any other avenue to try to seek some.
I mean, that probably wouldn't apply based on the ORS, like what Oregon has on the books. I don't think that would apply for that statute.
Any other questions coming by the council?
No.
I know this will probably be in the January report, but appreciate the sheriff showing up to the tree lighting event. It's always great to have everybody here. You were present, the sheriff was here, and so that's always a good sign on our end that, we appreciate the partnership that we have with you all. So thank you for
Thank you.
participating.
We love coming to Wood Village. It's always very nice and everybody's great. So
Awesome. Well, thank you so much,
thanks,
Chief.
guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to resolution, or nope, review of bills paid. Any questions on what's on the agenda sheet or in the staff report? And then in front of you, you guys have the staff report for the 15th annual tree lighting for the consent calendar. If there's no questions there, I'd entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the consent calendar?
A second.
First and second, any further discussion? I have to say it was well attended. Went really smooth. The weather worked out really great. So appreciate all the staff's hard work, making sure it was a great event. So appreciate that. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
That calendar passes. We'll go ahead and move to resolution 30-2025. Attorney appointment with our finance director.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, including your packet is the staff report and resolution. So we brought this to you all at the November council meeting. As you guys are aware, Jeff Condit is retiring at the end of the month. Attorney for the city of Wood Village for 26 years. Going back and looking, hadn't had to look at the city charter in a while, so I went back and looked at it, and it is a part of the charter that we need to have a city attorney as the chief legal officer for the city of Wood Village. Could be an employee, but we've had a contractual relationship, I think as far back as living memory serves. So when at the November 18th meeting, we talked about a number of different options. Provided some additional information in your packet on biographies and kind of a list of services, kind of a mini prospectus that Jeff supplied for you guys to take a look at. The recommendation is that Christine Taylor from Miller Nash would be appointed as city attorney for City of Wood Village. On approval of the resolution, we would enter into a signed agreement with Miller Nash for services. That can either be a term of contract or it could be open until council chooses to revisit it. And we wanted to have some further discussion about the need for attendance at council meeting, or if we wanted to kind of look at how we were utilizing the city attorney services and whether or not we needed to make some modifications or changes. So that's kind of a summary. There's some discussion there. If you guys have any direction for staff on how to utilize that for a council meeting. And that's all I have for my presentation on this. I'm available for any questions or discussions from council.
Open up for questions, comments.
If now, just to understand for sure, Seth and I did, you and I did have a conversation yesterday, but so just let me go to the question. The question is, when would we begin to have that conversation of how we think it's best to utilize legal services? Jeff has been fantastic. And this transition, it's probably one we need to stop and spend a little time thinking about. Is there any idea when we would do that? Would it be like at the retreat or anyway, just a thought maybe, and we probably certainly don't have to decide that tonight, but I think that would be a question I would have.
Yeah. We can put that on as a retreat topic, or we can have the discussion tonight. We budget about $25,000 a year for legal services. The most we've used since 2012 has been 15,000, and the last few years have been under 10. And that covers attendance at council meetings, and we usually have at least a couple questions a year where we need some legal research related to planning, human resources, union contract negotiations, just things that it's not every month that we email Jeff with a question, but it's, I'd say probably 6 to 8 times a year. There's a substantive question where staff feels that having the city attorney weigh in ahead of time. We kind of take the same idea with legal services as we do with our insurances. Prefer to have it and not need it, and also to use it before we need it rather than after we've kind of wrecked and then need to rebuild. So some of the topics we discussed last time was potentially either kind of consolidating and having the city attorney attend one meeting a month or as needed. I know, Councilor Minor, you and I talked that in your experience with school districts, it wasn't always having the attorney present at school board meetings wasn't typically required, and it was kind of on an as-needed basis. I believe Jeff made the comment last time that there's value from the attorney side of knowing all of what's going on in the city and hearing kind of the background discussion, not just getting the packets in the minutes. So I think that, we want to have that conversation now, especially with this being Jeff's last meeting. Any questions you might have about kind of the nature of the service and what a recommendation going forward for how you as the city council utilize the city attorney, because for staff, Jeff's our city attorney, but he's also your city attorney. He reports to you all and you appoint him directly. So we've had fantastic service from Jeff and the team at Miller Nash. We've had them come out and do some supervisor trainings for our supervisors and managers. Anytime we've ever needed anything, they've been very prompt and responsive and given us very comprehensive answers and kept us out of legal trouble for my entire tenure. So really, I think up to you guys, how much one.
So is the 25,000 budgeted enough to cover the increase in fees from Christina?
It would be, yeah. I'd provide, again, that's provided we don't get into anything. Jeff is always counseling, I guess, against suing anybody or taking anything to court because it becomes very expensive very quickly. And in general, we have taken his advice. That's not to say if we got into some sort of lawsuit on employee relations or on a planning issue that cost couldn't increase dramatically depending on the issue. But we try to stay within the lines and haven't needed to do that.
And I had a question about on that information that Jeff sent. There were 7 cities listed. Is that in total what Miller Nash does, or is that just a comparable size kind of thing?
Well, excuse me, what was the question? I was having a hard time hearing it.
So on your information packet that you sent, there were 7 cities listed out of Oregon. Is that all the cities that you do, or is that just similar size cities kind of thing?
Those are our current municipal city clients. We, from time to time, we do special counsel work for other cities, but in terms of our regular city clients, those are them. We also, we represent a lot of other public bodies, school districts, community college districts, fire districts, other special districts. So I would say we have, this is just going to be a wild off the seat guess, but I'd say we have 30 lawyers in the firm who spend more than half of their practice doing public sector law for various and sundry public clients. And I would say probably employment law and labor relationship is number 1, followed by business contracts, those kinds of things, and then governance, elections, public meetings and records, the usual stuff along those lines. So we probably have the largest public practice of any of the major law firms in Oregon. But there are some things we don't do, like bond counsel. We don't do bond counsel work. That's highly specialized. So if you ever get to the point where you do want to do a general obligation bond, we can advise you on spending it, elections, filing it. But to get the little sign off that you've done everything right, you need an actual dedicated bond counsel for that. But other than that, I'd say we can handle everything. And then one of the nice things about being part of a big law firm is if you have some sort of bizarre issue come up, we can walk down the hall. So we've had tax issues come up. We've had, not for Wood Village, but for some other clients, we've had antitrust issues come up. So that's the benefit of the fees. I mean, you will be paying higher fees than you would be if you've got a smaller, more boutique law firm to represent you.
My kind of question is, as we're moving into, as we continue to have, discussions about regional fire services, is there an anticipation from staff on increased utilization on legal?
We are planning on having the city attorney review any of the ballot language that we would propose submitting for a local option levy. I think that the hope is that that's all the legal advice we need on fire. I think, did Greg reach out and have you look at some of the issues around Fire District 10 dissolving?
Yes.
Okay.
That has not been a lot of legal work. I anticipate that if you, and I think putting a measure on the ballot, for example, local option levy we're talking about later, that does not take a ton of legal participation. That's mostly staff driven, and we're just a review. I think where it might get expensive is if you decide to pursue a fire district. There's a lot of things a lot of statutory obligations that you have to comply with. And so I would be involved in more often than that. I mean, I was involved in the creation of the new urban flood safety water quality district, and we had to write a whole new statute for that one. So that's probably not a good comparison. But I can tell you that if you do get to that point and you're forming a district, then that would take some extra work. And the only other thing I see on the horizon that might require some additional legal counsel work, other than the usual contracts, advice, attending board meetings, is if and when the Grand Ronde develop the site at the town center, that could involve full-on land use and planning issues, and that would be more labor intensive.
And for fire, provided we are all working together as the 4 cities in District 10, those costs for the district formation or for whatever's proposed would probably be a shared cost. We wouldn't all independently go out and pay our city attorneys to do that. And then with the Tribes of the Grand Ronde property, we brought forward you that proposal for planning fees, which would be cost plus an administrative fee, which we would just pass through whatever our contract planner or contract lawyer needs to do in those cases. If there's something has to go to the planning commission or city council, we would make sure that we're not left with a big bill that we can't afford to pay. So, and we have also communicated that to the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, that we made that change. And the goal was cost recovery, not making money off of our planning fees or land use. So.
And that's typical for smaller cities that don't have an in-house city attorney or an in-house planning staff. That consultants are hired and those costs are billed as part of the fee, and that's allowed under state statute.
Any further comments, questions by the council?
And then we had talked about in the last meeting that we have discretion to adjust whether or not Christine will be, our city attorney would be coming every meeting, every other meeting, so forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be direction that council would provide to the attorney as how often you want them to attend the meetings.
And just one other thing, when you engage an attorney, the client always has the right to fire them at any time. So you're not binding yourself into a contract. If you want to change how that works, that is entirely up to the client.
Well, I'm really supportive of the pattern of seek legal advice as you're moving through a problem rather than at the end when you already know you're in it too deep. So, and staff you've been doing that. And I really think that's an important piece that we have to trust you to do. and not have a legal issue in the meeting land in front of the council that we haven't heard about, and we don't have an attorney here. In the 8 years that I've been on the council, and Seth made some reference to some of my previous work, I haven't seen a situation in Wood Village, and Greg, or Jeff, this is not at all. I love having you here. I think it's at some point, it's all about how much it costs. And they don't, Christine, she needs to make the wages that she needs to make. So I think, one, it's about a budget. Two, it's about how do we conduct ourselves as a council, and how well does the staff keep us informed that if we need an attorney, we want an attorney here, and we don't want the attorney to come in cold. But that's the staff's responsibility to keep our attorneys apprised. In the 8 years that I've been here, I don't recall a situation, and Jeff, I may have, and I've only been here 8, or working on 8 now. But I know as an attorney, you probably have sat through a meeting and sometime it blew up and somebody started piping off one of not here, or maybe another city, that you probably have had to step in and say, I think we'll reserve that conversation for another time or something like that. But I haven't seen this council, and Pat, you've been here a number of years, get themselves in trouble at the meeting. And it doesn't mean that we don't want an attorney here at times. And I think we do have to keep them informed of our business. That's all I'm saying is we want legal advice, and we want good legal advice. We've been getting it. Miller Nash is a great firm. Yeah. But that's all I'm saying is that, we got 25,000 budgeted. Doesn't mean if we don't have to spend it, we can't use it someplace else. Yeah. So that's all I would just put on the table here. And I know I wasn't here for the first conversations, but I probably would have said the same thing there.
But you bring up a good point. And I think one of the, at least from the staff side, one of the advantages to having an attorney at the meetings is when we do contact Jeff with an issue, we don't have to have him, we don't send him a really long email with a bunch of council minutes attached and videos so that he can understand what our problem is, because he's keeping up with it continually. There's not a large lead time or a need to kind of get up to speed. And I'm sure that there's been times that having Jeff here has probably saved us staff time and legal costs. A penny of prevention has resulted in a pound of cure. I think that what we'll have to manage going forward with Christine is seeing how that plays out with her and how it works and what the best model is for that. So, and again, as Jeff said, we can always revisit it if we don't feel like it's working. And I'm confident that if it's not, Greg and Christine will be able to sit down and involve council with kind of, hey, we need to make some changes to make this work for everyone.
I think the thing that kind of is a security blanket is that, like Jeff said, if it's not working for us, we can change it. So I think what we do need is we need an attorney at least coming into the new year's. And then, if we feel that this is a retreat discussion, we can bring this up in the retreat. But as Jeff will be leaving us at the end of the year, I think we need to have something in place before then, and kind of like Seth said, have it and not need it, and not need it and then don't have it.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah.
I'd like to see the new girl come in and learn as much as she can. And she's only going to do that by being at every meeting. And I think it's better to have her here than not have her here. And we've always done it. It's just my feeling.
Well, that's the other option is to have Christie come to the meetings for 6 months and then revisit it. Because by that time she'll know all the people, which is important, and have some idea about what the workload's going to be for the next year. Surprise, surprise, not having another night meeting is not exactly the worst thing that an attorney hears. So if you decide you want to do that, and there's some councils have their attorney pay a reduced fee and have their attorney listen in remotely, and then they're available. But as John said, at Wood Village, I can only think of a handful of times, some of which Pat will remember, where it was the city attorney had to intervene. But there are many, many other situations where that's the case. And my personal feeling about that is the best reason to not have a city attorney at the meeting is so you can say, well, we need to contact our city attorney and they're not here tonight.
Yeah.
Because you don't want your city attorney also throwing legal advice off the cuff in a public meeting either. So, and a good city attorney will know the difference between the two, but that's, there are pros and cons as everybody's talked about.
I don't have any problem with this resolution. We want an attorney. And so how we utilize the attorney isn't a part of this resolution. So I certainly don't have any problem of moving this resolution forward. And as Jeff just said, yeah, I guess sometimes an attorney doesn't like to be sitting and called on the spot and say, yeah, well, what statute can I pull out and make up something, I guess. I don't know. But in any event, I would say,
My secret, John.
in any event, I'll move to approve the resolution 30-2025, appointing a new city attorney for the city of Wood Village.
I'll second it.
First and second, any further discussion? Just lastly, again, like Councilor Minor said, this isn't binding exactly how the attorney will operate. I think we can create that as we go along, alongside staff. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Do we need to say her name?
It's in the
No,
resolution.
It's in the resolution.
The one that was in your packet. So with that, we're going to transition to our next discussion by Jeff for our political campaigns and the role of elected officials and staff. But before that, Jeff has served as your city attorney for 26 years. And so we consulted with our attorney on a participation trophy or a plaque or some sort of gift would be appropriate. Jeff let us know that something consumable rather than permanent was his preference. And so we did get him, no plaque, but in honor of his many years of fantastic service, we did find one of his principal contributions to which was the propagation of the naked beer run and cart.
Yes,
Yes,
I do
that's
remember
it.
that.
You remember that, Pat? That was Greg's father, Stan Dirks's fault.
I know.
We just suggested.
Did you ride in that?
I still have my shirt.
With the bike, naked bike,
Okay, I should say,
Beer
your clothes
dash.
on or not?
That's probably when that legal advice really worked.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, geez. Oh. No, I was asked what my favorite dessert was and I said scotch.
I knew I liked you.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, except for a few times, serving as your city attorney. And it's been a great 26 years. And one of the sad things about retiring is I'm going to miss y'all. It's been a good run and luckily we have kept you out of trouble mostly. And
Yes.
so I
Good
really,
thing.
and I really appreciate the support and the respect I've gotten from the city council and the city administrator. So thank you all very much. And I will most Most enjoy my dessert.
Well, and because of the audience, sir, you need a standing ovation.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, my gosh.
That's pretty good food you got.
I wonder if I have to share this with my partners.
No.
Great, there I am,
I know.
That's a nice
20
package.
pounds
Yeah.
later. There's Greg when he was a kid.
Nice.
Well,
It fits with our theme.
it does.
Absolutely.
Well, Jeff, once again, thank you so much for your service. You will be missed. And the time I've been here, we've learned a lot. So we
Yeah.
appreciate you, your insight and sharing all your knowledge with us. But
Appreciate it. That's the big, keeping you out of trouble. That's what, solving problems and keeping you out of trouble.
That's right.
We may have to have two attorneys when High Road gets done.
we'll see. All right, now we'll move with discussion of election, office and staff role in a political campaign with our attorney.
All right, I will actually come up. So one of the things the city of Wood Village has never done in the 26 years that I have represented you is run a ballot measure. You haven't done a bond, you haven't done a local option levy. You have not done any of those things. A lot of our clients do, particularly school districts. So we do a lot of that work, but the city hasn't done that before. And so there's a couple of rules once you've decided to put something on the ballot that are very important to remember. And the key one is RS 26432. It's called the Little Hatch Act because there's a big Hatch Act that's similar that applies to federal employees. But the basic rule is that a public employee can't campaign or be coerced into campaigning for a measure or a candidate or an initiative while on the job during working hours. And as a result of case law over time, that has included expending any public funds to do any campaign. So that's the main restriction. There's a number of exceptions to it. One of being is that does not apply to elected city councils. So you can go out and campaign all you want and use your titles and everything else because you're elected political leaders and that's expected of you. But you can't come in and ask staff to help you do it, even if it's arguably supporting your ability to do that as a city council. The best example I have that really shows sort of illustrates the fact is that former mayor of Gresham was trying to promote a special levy for fire services. And so she wanted to send a letter out to every member of the Chamber of Commerce and ask for their support. So she did. She had her city assistant draft a letter. She used city resources and it got sent out to everyone in the Chamber of Commerce. And what happened is somebody reported her to the Oregon government or the Oregon Secretary of State's office, and she was found to have violated RS 26432, not because she couldn't do that, but because she basically directed staff to help her do it and used city resources to do it. And there's a case out of Multnomah County where the county had put a fluoridation measure on the ballot and was spending a lot of money promoting that fluoridation measure and got turned in or got sued, and the Secretary of State's fined them, and the court concluded that spending public funds, because it was not allowed to direct staff or to use city resources to fund a campaign, that is potentially a misexpenditure of public funds. And the two key points there, and this is why you need to be extra special careful about it, is that If the Secretary of, there are two sort of penalties you can face. One is a fine from the Secretary of State's office, and that fine goes up and down depending on the severity of the violation, but then it can also require you to pay back to the city the funds that were used to be expended. And they can also sue you for misexpenditure of public funds. And all of those result in personal liability to any public official who is involved. And that's personal liability that the city can't pick up the tab for. So it comes directly out of your pocket. So that's one of the reasons to take it seriously. So, normally you're covered, your actions as council are covered under the Tort Claims Act, and the city has a legal obligation to defend and indemnify counselors. But that is not true in this case. It's a potential personal fine. Usually they're not huge. It depends on how egregious they are, but it is still nonetheless embarrassing to get them. When does it apply? So if you were to put a ballot measure on the ballot, there's a number of steps that you have to go through in order to do that. And it's perfectly fine to do what we will be talking about next, which is to conduct polling, to see what kind of ballot titles sell better, to get advice from a political consultant. But once you've voted to put the measure on the ballot, and that measure then gets filed with the county elections official for the election. That filing with the county election official is what kicks in ORS 26432. And then it continues to apply until polls close on election day. So between those two periods, don't ask staff to help you out. Don't ask staff to write you letters. Don't try to ask staff to serve on the campaign committee. All that stuff is potentially unlawful. Now, staff can choose to do so if they do so on their own time, but that's got to be their personal choice, and it has to be off the clock, so to speak. It's always a delicate balance between somebody's free speech rights versus what the law is intended to get at, which is the expenditure of public funds on partisan political activity and on politicians, putting the squeeze on staff to try to get them to assist that. Believe it or not, that happens. So that's the key. And the other big exception, and this is one where the city can use public funds, is the city can use public funds to explain about the measure in a non-partisan, promotional way. So oftentimes the city or the school district is the best source of information about their measure. So you could say, for example, if you put a special levy for fire services on the ballot, you can say, this is how much it's going to cost. This is what's going to pay for. These are the things we're going to use the money for. And these are things you have to do when you set up the ballot title as well. But you can't say, fire service will be slashed if this isn't approved, even if that's true, or you won't be safe in your homes, or and again, those kinds of materials can then be grounds for somebody filing a complaint against the officials. And again, it's not the city that gets the complaint, it's the individual officials. And everybody in that chain that participated in the decision to do something that's in violation of the act that is potentially subject to the fine. Secretary of State's office has a great service that they provide where you can send them the material and they will go through and redline it for you. And it's not necessarily a guarantee against a complaint, but if you do that and somebody complains and then you're found to be a violation, no fines. So I highly recommend that you do that with all of your informational materials that you provide us if you decide to go out for a fire service levy or any other kind. So that's the rules in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Questions, comment by the council?
No, that's pretty good cut and dry
Yeah.
rule there.
It's clear. The staff, again, They're not prevented, but it's got to be their choice.
It's got to be their choice. So they may, and it's actually very common because people who are on staff, particularly in the higher positions, see the city succeed, and it's their option to serve. But again, it's got to be off the job, off of working hours, and their choice. They can't be coerced into it.
And that again that's from the date we file.
That's the date when you file with the county elections officer. That's what turns it into a measure and triggers the start of the statutory period.
So anything prior to that, staff can assist.
Prior to that, right. I mean, you're about to talk about something that if you did it after something was put on the ballot, that it probably would be a violation, which is it's common for municipalities to like hire a consultant, political consultants to run ballot titles and find out which one works the best, and then get some advice about how to do that, how to put it together, how to put together the explanatory packets. But once that magic date passed and it's on the ballot, then everything you do from that point on has to be impartial.
Just some of the conversation we've had internally about making sure that we're doing our due diligence and following that is the materials that we have on our Fire HQ page are what we would probably submit to the Secretary of State because they do have a limit on materials and it's 5, I think, of what you can submit through that review process. And so we're hoping that all of the materials we have on the website for Fire HQ, we would submit and get that approved, and then that would be able to be used for informational purposes or continuing community conversations. And then if there was a needed for a clarification, like if, we were having a community conversation after that point and there was a kind of a, hey, we have this question and we're not really sure what the answer is. Can you provide us a factual answer to the question that came up that it wasn't addressed in the materials or we don't know? Then I'm assuming that would fall on staff providing information. And that's kind of the role we would have in there. We're hoping to get all of the information that you as council need to have to make a decision and to make the case for why you've made your decision before we do that filing. So that's part of the reason why we're putting in a lot of work now is that we're trying to get as much done as we can while we can assist and aid in whatever way we can.
One thing I forgot to mention, if you are really interested in learning more, the Secretary of State does have an excellent manual, Guide for Public Officials regarding elections. It's on their website. It goes into more detail about examples and the law and why it's there. And it's also been adopted as an administrative rule. So it's advice, but it has the force of law. So it's a good one if you have a question and you want to take a peek.
And you said that was on the Secretary of State?
Yeah, Oregon Secretary of State Elections Division website. They've got a whole list of manuals and you want to have the Guide for Officials.
And Seth, you got a brief staff on this, and you probably already have, that they can, but not on the clock and not under any kind of coercion or pressure.
Right, and actually, if
Perceived
you put something on the ballot, you have to post that where the staff can see it.
Any other questions, comments? No? Well, Jeff, once again, thank you for that education. That is.
Gonna squeeze you for the last bit of money.
That's real helpful as we're transitioning into something of that nature.
Yeah.
So.
I just want to make sure that staff know they can if they want to. Maybe some that did, I used to.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to discussion of ballot title for polling.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. There's a very report in your packet on the polling language, and I forgot to mention that Jeff also included a nice summary memo of everything he just said that he's distributed to other clients, but kind of outlines all of what he says, has a lot of helpful resources, just to reiterate that. So we wanted to come to you tonight and give you a little update on kind of where we're at. So we've had some community conversations in November. We're contracted with Praxis, our PR and polling firm. They are currently working on developing polling questions for to run a poll January 5th, starting kind of after the first of the new year. That will be about 3 to 4 weeks worth of work. What we're kind of discussing and getting feedback on tonight is they've recommended that we start another series of community conversations, reaching out to folks prior to the council retreat to get feedback and, again, gather as much information and engage with as many members of the community as we can about the measure and their feelings on it, and kind of fire service, again, to provide the meat of that polling and the community conversations would provide the meat of the report that you would go over at your all-day retreat, so that you can kind of have it for a few weeks, talk about it as a group, ask questions, and really determine what it is that you all want to know from staff, to include in the ballot, to make sure that you have kind of dialed in before, because we have the council retreat February 7th. The deadline for submission of all the election materials is February 27th. And at that point, as Jeff said, we kick off the campaign. The political campaign kicks off and doesn't wrap up until May 18th. So that's the period where we can have the information available on our website in a nonpartisan and factual way. We can respond to questions that aren't clear or that you need support on. But that's kind of where we start having to draw that line and keeping those two activities separate. So one of the so these are updated from the ones that were included in your packet, but we wanted to pull the ballot title, because a lot of times, the ballot title and the measure description are, let's say 90%, but a good portion of the electorate isn't going to be reached by our newsletter, social media, or community conversations. They're going to open up their packet, read the page, the for and against, and vote. And so the title of the measure and what you're asking, and that is something we want to pull to give you the tools you need to know kind of how we want to frame this. And so our PR firm came up with 3 different variations on how to ask that question. We have to include the word levy. We don't have to include local option levy, which is important because you only get 10 words for your ballot title. So there's 3 examples there of what we could title it, and kind of the differences between them. So just wanted to kind of get your guys' feedback on kind of whether or not you thought these were the right 3, or if you had any questions about them before we sent them out for polling. And we're working on generating a list of polling questions. Now, we don't have a council meeting between now and January 5th, but we also wanted to check in with you and see if you wanted a chance to review those polling questions, to weigh in on if there's anything that you thought wasn't being asked that should be, or if you had any questions, and that would need to be done via email between now and when we finalize that. So kind of 2 parts. What do you guys think about these? Do you have any feedback for staff and things you would want to change? And then do you also want the opportunity to provide feedback on the polling, or are you fine letting us work with Praxis to develop that and then looking at the results? Those are the 2 questions.
And these 3 came from Praxis.
Yes, they work with a lot of agencies to develop this. Their firm, I think, exclusively does public entities work, mostly around elections. They don't do polling themselves, but they contract that out, and they've done that on a number of occasions. So these were their recommendations of what to kind of poll for Wood Village and see which one played best.
I remember when, oh, sorry. I remember when we had the city night out and when we were polling people, response was important for them. And that's a key word, I think, that will catch people's attention. So I like that second one where it talks about fire response and emergency medical services. That was the other piece that I got a lot of feedback on.
Yeah, you know, you reminded me, Counselor, and that is exactly what people in the bowling, in our booth there, said it was all about response time, and that's where they're,
Catches them, yeah.
yeah, so you remind me of that. That's,
I think the first two are better sounding than the third one because they're improving, they're not
Yeah.
preventing.
yeah, the third one, if I saw that, I would kind of think, yeah, are we trying to put our finger on the outcome where, you know, that isn't, you know, yeah, I agree with you.
Well, I was kind of leaning the other way because this levy currently isn't, well, I mean, the hope is that it does improve. But it's, you know, I don't want to say in reality, but it's kind of helping us fill that gap. And what I would not like, put a perception out there that, you know, this levy will improve and there is no improvement. And so, you know, that's kind of how I looked at it.
Well, and one of the things we've struggled with is, you know, and any title that we get that polls well, we're going to run past the city attorney. But we at the last meeting signed our 5-year extension with Gresham, with the caveat that we couldn't afford it for 5 years and we weren't sure how we were going to do it, but for adding a new revenue source. So you get into some issues about level of service. Now, definitively, we could say that the service would improve if Gresham agreed to staff a temporary fire station. We've had them run the response models, and Wood Village's response time drops from 9 minutes travel time to 5 minutes, which is, in my opinion, is a demonstrated improvement to our fire and emergency medical response. But we don't have that contract yet, and that contract's not necessarily dependent on this levy, and we haven't tied them that way. So there's still some of those kind of moving pieces that are still floating out there, which is why why it's good we're talking about it now, because those are the kind of questions we would want to have definitive answers to by the time we got to February 27th and filed this, so that we make sure we're on solid legal ground and don't get a legal challenge.
Well, I like the second one. I think the two words get reaction from people. They might skip over the other words, but those two words are going to catch their attention and they're going to want to know more about it. And that's just mine.
How about if you took out improve and just put maintain in
Uh-uh.
option 2?
Maintaining.
I think maintain is a passive word. It's not.
I mean, I understand also the idea of we need something.
Better.
Yes, we want, our goal is to improve it. And this is a step in the right direction. So I mean, I understand that piece, but just initially, I mean, I guess knowing a little bit further in the detail, kind of like what you mentioned, Seth, not having that contract currently in place, you know, is, again, I don't want to sell our community something that at the end we can't fully do.
Yeah.
But I think at the end, our goal is to improve the service, and this is a help into that right direction. So I mean, I do like number 2. I would just suggest moving response to being the last word, because as we do remember that the Wood Village Night Out, a big component was medical response too. So this kind of just puts response under fire, and it's collectively fire and emergency service response.
Say that again.
So for me, it would be a levy to improve fire and emergency medical service response.
But I think the medical services is
It is separate, but it's associated together because you know, 80% of our 911 calls are our medical response
oh,
that are triaged through our fire services. So I mean, I think that'd be, you know, kind of my only suggestion, because again, for me, it kind of encapsulates both fire and medical. We want those response. I mean, you know, fire responds pretty quickly, but it's the medical side aspect of it as well. So.
And I will say that in the polling, they asked questions like, what about these appealed to you? Which of these kind of similar to what we did of which of these services are you find most important? You know, is it more important to improve or to maintain and not lose? Kind of there's I think they've got about 15 to 20 questions, and this is just kind of the first one. And so we should have a good granularity of data, and so you can have a little bit more of the flavor of why did people say yes or no to these certain ones. So,
You know, I think we have to say improve.
Yeah.
It's and there's, to me, if we get a fire district, it's going to be an improvement.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Without even building another fire station, it would be an improvement. So I think it's important to say improve. I like response, and medical is, you know, that's 80% of our calls. And so.
yeah, I agree with the mayor. Going back to that, I'm sorry.
no.
Maybe with including the response, we can say a levy to improve response in fire and emergency medical services.
Yeah, there we go.
I just don't, I want response to be more of the beginning.
Yeah.
Because people don't read all, if it's longer. I
Yeah.
mean, I admit that sometimes with emails, it's just one of those things. It's what catches someone's attention in the immediate that makes them want to continue to read.
Say that again, Counselor.
A levy to improve response in fire and emergency medical
I
services.
like that.
Because I think, again, like, what we don't want is them to disassociate the two, because
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
really, they're hand in hand with theirs.
We have a meeting with Praxis tomorrow morning, and so we'll give all this feedback to them and see if they can wordsmith and come up with some options to incorporate those comments. So, and just regarding the polling, we found out that they are going to do both a phone call and they're going to mail a postcard with a QR code. That's not something they normally do, but because of our small size and they want to have statistically significant sample, we're not going to be able to publish the QR code because it's going to be personalized to each individual person that gets one. But they did say, initially they said, the polling company said they didn't want us advertising. They now say, yes, we would love to have you. Let people know that if they get a phone call, you know,
Not,
we push back. Say, if I can see an unidentified number on my phone, I don't answer it. Like,
yeah.
And so let people know that that's going to be happening those first 2 weeks of January, and they should look out for, we'll have a mock-up of the postcard. It's going to have our logo on it and, you know, some design work. So they'll be able to, we want to flag it for people in the newsletter on social media of, hey, don't throw this away. It's not junk mail. Please respond, because they need to get as many higher response rates as they can to make the poll worthwhile. So, the other thing that I wanted to mention is the levy rate that we're polling is $1.35, which is the same as what Gresham ran 2 years ago when we were doing the costing on it. Kind of ran a high end and a low end. At the high end, if we wanted property taxes to pay for all of public safety, that rate was $1.85. If we wanted to not have the increased cost in fire erode our ability to maintain our general fund, then that was about 85 cents. So it was $1.35, which again was what Gresham ran and passed 18 months ago was about halfway in between those two options. And so we said, pull that, let us know how that lands, and that will help us in generating whether we needed to go lower or higher for the actual rate. So that's kind of the discussions we've had internally about what would be helpful for staff to know. We don't want to give them a bunch of numbers and have them choose. So we kind of picked one in the middle to see how favorable that was for this round of polling.
And is this where you bring back in assessed value versus market value?
Yes.
Okay.
This would be, and we would translate this. This would translate into about $250 to $275 for the average single family home in Wood Village. So we'll break it into a kind of an annual and a monthly, for the cost of one Starbucks a week, you could have improved fire service. I don't get that creative, but that's why we hire PR and polling firms to let us know how to make numbers relatable to people.
You might not get that many from
Nope. I added an extra C in there, but so that was what we wanted to bring before you tonight. Thank you for the feedback. Again, this is going to be part of a process that's running between, now and when you guys make a decision to say, yes, we want to refer this to the voters, or no, we want to go back to the drawing board and take a look at our options. So as staff, we're here to support you, and we want you to provide the best information for you to make an informed decision, which will be helped out by our meeting tomorrow night with the 4 cities and District 10 task force that we're having in Gresham. So work is continuing on all fronts, and between one of these efforts, we're going to find a solution to fix fire. So
I have a quick question for Jeff while he's still here. As we're looking at this roadmap and looking at discussions around, potentially putting something in a ballot measure, as a PAC potentially is usually developed around something like this, what are the limitations on how many, if we were to create a PAC to help us with this effort, would there be limitations on how many council members could be associated with that PAC?
And let me broaden it, Jeff. Okay, PAC and or an employee being a member of a PAC.
Yes, a council person for sure can be a member of a PAC. Typically, a PAC would be formed. Now, that has to happen, like we've talked previously, outside of the city, but city can't be involved in forming that. But assuming a private PAC gets formed and you're recruiting members, councilors can certainly serve on that. And individual city employees can serve on that too, with the caveat that they have to do it on their own time. It creates, I think, and this is not a legal opinion, this is a political opinion, and also a safety opinion, is it can create, I think it creates a bad appearance if everybody on the PAC is, or if anybody on the PAC is actually an employee of the city other than an elected official. I think it would be better if you had a couple of city councilors on the PAC. And of course, this was private legal advice, so you have to talk to a separate lawyer. But I think it would be good to have some city councilors on the PAC, but also see if you can recruit some local business people or community members to be on the PAC. And if a city staffer volunteers to help, then you can certainly have that right to do so. And I wouldn't turn them down just because they're a city employee. And all the city employees have had the conversation about how they need to be very, very careful about that and keep track of their time, and so that they don't get a complaint filed against them. I mean, even if you get, getting a complaint filed against you takes a whole bunch of time, and avoid that if you can do it.
Would there be any public meeting law per se if, obviously us being a smaller council, if 3 or more were on the PAC?
I would probably say, again, you could do that because you're not deliberating toward a decision as a city council on the plaque. This is a totally private entity. And so it wouldn't be a public meeting. But if you have a quorum of the council and they're on the pack and you start devolving into conversations about how this is going to be implemented and what that's going to look like, then you are crossing that line. So you either have to be very careful about that or have fewer than a quorum be members of the pack or on the pack.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's something, we'll have to discuss or consider outside of this if something of that nature is created of a.
Right. And again, once that ballot measure's on the ballot, you need to keep that totally separate and but that's how I've seen them run many, many times and how people have make sure they've maintained that separation.
Well, let me just say this, if we go in the direction of a PAC, it's going to take members to make that, to move that forward. And that's going to have to start happening real quick. I'll go back to that. Go back to your
Timeline.
the worm. It's got to start happening within weeks. And that PAC would, I'm bringing it up here because if you know of people in this community that would be interested in serving on the PAC, which would be, and wouldn't be a large group, 5, 6, 7 people, serving on that to try to do the work. And sometimes it's the work that the staff can't do once that ballot measure has been filed. And it is going to take money that can't be council or public money. So we're going to, if we move towards a PAC, we're going to have to start getting some money put together for this levy. And that's where all of us can play a role. And to try to be thinking, 1, about talent that could help. And 2, about donations. Because one mailing is, if we send out, and one of the recommendations from practice was 500 key individuals. It stacks up pretty quick for just mailing costs. So think about that as we go forward here, because it's really kind of a sprint from here to May 19th.
I mean, especially we gotta look at that real 27-ish date moving forward.
Yeah,
That's really, as closer to that election date.
yeah, that's
gonna be the.
I think that was one of the conversations pieces we wanted to hit was really to make this work. It has to be led. It has to have a political champion, and that can't be staff because once we hit that February 27th, you want to maintain a very clear line between city activities and city business and political. And in that political, even if you have city staff helping or volunteering, it can't be led by, it has to be really driven by the elected officials and you as kind of the representatives of the people to do that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that step 5 is the campaign. And that's where it's really got to happen. Door knocking, everything we can do. And that's going to take boots on the ground, so to speak.
yeah. And looking at community partners.
Yeah.
Signs in the yard.
Signs in your yard. Yep. Not on the public right away. Right, Jeff?
Right. No big sign in
You're
front
going
of
to have to get over this one of these days.
All right.
You got my HOA yelling at me, so. Because John told me.
We'll go ahead and move on to discussion of Community Member of the Year Award.
That levy was passed,
It
by
was.
the way.
All right. Our Community Member of the Year, the next item for business. So I believe this is the fifth year. I had to go and try to look at the back. We've had 4 winners for the Community Member of the Year Award. We put out solicitations, we advertised it on social media and in our newsletter. In your packet, we received 1 nomination, and that was for the Reynolds Transition Volunteers. That's the group associated with Reynolds School District for differently abled people between young adults, ages from 18 to 21. I know they've shown up consistently at our cleanup day and a number of our events. They were the only nomination that we received. And this was open to groups, individuals, and businesses. Last year, it was the volunteers from the Wood Village Baptist Church that won. We had a deadline again at the end of the month last month because we like to get this nomination. We like to have them invited at the January council meeting for the presentation of the award so that they can enjoy it for the full 12 months of 2026. Here's a little bit about that like transitions program for volunteers. They also volunteer in our park. Really a great program, a great partnership with Reynolds School District. And so we wanted to inform you that that was the only nomination. We want to find out from you, you have some options. We could go out and solicit more, do more community outreach to try and see if we have any additional nominations. Or you could choose to go with the nomination that we received, and then the discussion would be about the award, which would be they get a place of honor on the plaque, and their picture goes up on the top of that. We present the plaque. There's a individual gift card, or there's gift package from Wood Village Restaurants that we put together. We try and keep the cost around $250 for the win. So this is a council initiated process. This is you determine the Wood Village Community Member of the Year. What would you like staff to do?
I will mention that this is not the first time this group has been nominated. I believe it's the last 2 prior years they were nominees in Community of the Year. With that said, they followed the process. They met the deadline, and I think it would be good to grant it to them, but leave it up for council discussion and input as well.
I'm good with that, Ira.
Absolutely.
All right, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to award the 2025 Community Member of the Year Award to the Reynolds Community Transition Program.
I'll second it.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next steps on that are we will reach out to them to let them know that they won the award, and we'll get started on putting together that package for them and see if they can 18th or the 27th January council meeting for presentation of the award.
Awesome.
One of the steps moving forward.
Right, we'll go ahead and move the discussion of 75th celebration.
All right, and you can thank Caroline for all of the wonderful and very appropriate pictures in this. She did a fantastic job, as she does on all of our events and all of our media. So we have our 75th anniversary. It coincides with our nation's 250th anniversary, and we wanted to have a way to celebrate that. So we have a couple of questions and options available for you to consider. So we have our retreat on February 7th, and we are proposing that the So let me go back. City was incorporated on February 9th. So we were proposing, you typically have your council meetings on the 10th and the 24th of February. Now, we're having our all-day retreat on the 7th. And typically the meeting right after that is a little light because everyone has kind of talked themselves out over the weekend. So what we're proposing is rather than having two of the meetings, one of which is kind of short and is going to be mostly a recap of what we covered on February 7th, was have a celebration, kind of a community celebration on February 10th, and then have a single meeting in February in the middle of the month, similar to what we did in November, where we just had, rather than meeting on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, we met on the third Tuesday and got it all done kind of in one meeting. So that's kind of the first proposal we would have for you all. Want to kind of get an idea from you of whether or not that would work.
That works for me. That's a great idea.
Thumbs up from me.
Okay.
I'm in.
Do you have a time? Like roughly?
We'd probably have the same time at 6 o'clock on February 10th. We are going to put out a call for community stories for the that meeting. We'd like to do some media and push some things out for kind of what really encapsulating what Wood Village is about, what the history is, the rich community that we have. We also, for that February 10th meeting, we wanted to kind of get some feedback of you of, do you want us to have that catered? Do you want us to have that pre-purchased items? You're looking at doing something like an anniversary cake? Do you want to have appetizers and like small appetizers or more substantiative? And then any culturally relevant food or beverages? And we were plan would be to host it in this space since we have this excellent space, and rather than renting it out, we budgeted $7,500 for the total celebration. We feel like that would be, there's some other options that we could have to kind of stretch that. So wanted to kind of see if something like that, cake, like light appetizers would work for that February 10th timeframe.
I think so. Are we doing like a big cake from Costco or something like that?
We can get it from wherever. We've gotten cakes from the top of the hill from Babushka's before, or desserts of that nature. And that's where we have the culturally relevant food or beverage we could order from. We could order some from across the street of Tanny's and see if they could order or make some appetizers. I mean, it's really what council wants to have that would be meaningful we feel would be meaningful as a celebration for the community.
So this is going to happen in February?
Be February
We
10th.
talked about having it at the night out.
So part of it would be, there would be an enhanced, let me see, I think that's the,
We're kind of rushing toward things right now and throw one more thing into I don't know.
I think it just aligns with when established.
I think the idea more or less came to have an opportunity also to invite community members to share their story and capture it. And I think doing that piece at the night out could result a little difficult, and this could provide that setting to do so on or close to its actual birthday.
Okay.
so that there's kind of one of the things that was discussed in the staff report was, besides just February 10th, working with Metro East Community Media to develop some community stories that then we could push out kind of throughout the year to tell the story of Wood Village. Other ideas that we had were commemorative street banners. I believe we have 12. When we do our seasonal banners, is it 12? Do we do 12 of those or do we do more?
Currently, we have 8, but I think we're looking at
expanding that number.
So we could come up with a banner that commemorates just the 75th anniversary of Wood Village and hang those in place of where we have our seasonal banners. We talked about generating some anniversary items, or as Caroline called it, swag. Branded hats, shirts, probably nothing as risque as the naked food co. I mean, we could potentially host a race here in Wood Village as a throwback, but mugs, glasses, those type of things as a way to kind of commemorate this and share that with the community. And then there was, we've talked about adding some of this to the night out as a way to maybe roll out those community stories between February and July, but then have that as part of our booth of showing those stories, kind of having a looping video for folks to kind of come and appreciate the history of Wood Village and the accomplishment of being around for 75 years.
The significance of February 10th, anything? I
So
mean, is that the exact?
The incorporation date was February 9th of 1951. So there's our official incorporation date.
But our scheduled council meeting is on the,
Yeah, no,
so that's kind of the correlation between.
yeah, I get that. You know what? It seems like February and at the same time, 6 o'clock.
It's not the greatest weather. I'm not
I
gonna
mean,
lie.
do you think we're going to get people here in February and a night like perhaps this or another time? I think it's I think that would be my biggest question. And I don't think that having it close to the day that it was officially incorporated 75 years ago makes any difference. It's the year. It's not the day. It's the year we were incorporated that I think is important. So that would be my thoughts about the date.
Okay.
Now the refreshments and all that stuff. Can't have an anniversary without a cake.
Well,
But
and
anyway, that's just why, and I haven't been involved in any previous conversations if I've missed it over the last 3 months. But
no, and we've never done a 75th anniversary. So this was kind of staff's first idea pass of how could we enhance some of what we have or make an event. We did also talk about maybe we put more money and have a larger guest list on the appreciation dinner, because that might be something that would attract. Usually do our appreciation dinner in late May, early June. But again, that's an event for staff and for the volunteers. It could be expanded, or we could try and run a similar type event. Like I agree with you. February is not, we love having the indoor outdoor space here.
well, I think we need balloons, we need stuff, activities if we're gonna have a celebration. Or, we're not gonna get people down.
Yeah.
Listen to Metro.
You could-
Or we may get a whole flood of people, and how many people?
Well, that would be a good problem, but yeah, we may.
You could do articles in the newsletter up to a future date. So you get people reading and questioning and wanting to be involved in it, kind of thing. That would you may get more participation with a May date or June date.
I that perspective that there's a lot of stuff. And give it a little time to maybe resonate and build it up.
We can utilize the Easter event to promote something in like May or June for
To promote
something like.
the anniversary celebration.
Yeah. I guess, again, the idea behind kind of this February and I had talked to staff, Greg and things. A big piece of what we would like to do is incorporate community members. That's the whole the big piece behind having Metro East here, having them been able to capture those, you know, in a professional manner, and then having material to do, again, just community spotlighting through the whole year. That would eventually, you know, end up on the night out, and they're on for it. And so that's kind of the idea be for the earlier date. But I mean, I hear what you're saying, drawing some kind of, you know, earlier drawing for that could really help and try to attract other community members to come.
Yeah, and I think the community members will come. I mean, if we're gonna contact them and they want to come, they're gonna come. And they would come later, or they'll come when it is probably anytime that we ask them to. If they want to talk anyway, but I like the idea of just giving it some more time to start talking about it. Or I like giving it more time to be talking about it and start letting it resonate with our audience, with our community.
Okay, well, maybe I can, we'll take this back and give it a little more thought. Let me ask a question to kind of give staff some direction. Would you like us to try and find something we're already doing and enhance it? Like night out or the appreciation dinner? Or would you like a standalone event?
I'm thinking standalone event. I think the night out's too busy. And then I think it takes away from the appreciation dinner. You know, with our volunteers.
It's a big deal. I think it needs to be by itself. And I think a whole flood of people
I do too.
from near and far
You know,
to be here.
you guys, and then there's timing, you know, we have. So May, big date in May for us is going to be the 19th, which is the local option levy, potential local option levy vote. Assuming we want to do the celebration afterwards, so that we could have your focus and staff's focus be solely on that. Does that resonate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the idea after.
Yeah.
And before our August break, I'm assuming that everyone, so that gives us a window from May through the end of July.
Used to have a parade in July and everybody rode their bikes through the village.
Okay. Yeah, and we can take a look at kind of some weekends and some things that we could put as a standalone event. We'll work on developing community media and plugging that with East Metro Media, either as kind of a rolling presentation at the event or just something as a spot, like every newsletter every month, highlighting some of those stories. And then I think that gives us enough to kind of go back and think on this and bring it back to you at a future council meeting, and we'll work on the stories piece to get that out to the community, let them know we're going to be wanting to highlight what makes Wood Village special throughout 2025. So that gives us enough direction. We were just, February was sneaking up on us, and that was an idea that we had been talking about. So we will push that off until after May and work on coming up with some ideas for what that might look like and what we want to do for that.
You know, and as we're thinking about that, we can all think about people too that might be some of these speakers. But it would be great to see if we can find some veterans that would be available to speak.
Yeah. And we could reach out to former significant people within the city who've served and see how many of those we can recruit and get to come tell their stories.
Seth, did you want us to touch on, like, some of them were like professional catering versus city purchase item, music playlist versus hired band? Do you want us to touch on that now or wait until we get closer?
I think what we'll do, what we'll do is we will
Hold.
put together a couple options,
On the back.
piggybacking or doing standalone and what that might look like. And then bring that back at a future council meeting and have you guys make a decision for us to start working on. So we'll have various dates, various kind of packages, and you can let us know what do you want.
It's good.
Okay.
So, I mean, it should be a lot of fun. And
I will just quickly say if we could still go with the idea of only having one meeting in February, as it's, the council
That is,
meeting is still significantly close to the retreat. So if that's, keeping it on the 17th, or our second scheduled meeting in February, which probably would be the week after that, I think that would provide, again, staff more time to focus on doing that and not having to do such a quick turnaround.
okay.
So-
Yeah. It's February 17th as the Seoul meeting in February work.
Yes.
excellent.
Okay. We will make that change and that will
Perfect.
help us clarify.
Now we'll go ahead and move to discussion of Grand Ron property development.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So here we are. Former dog track in all of its glory.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I
Wanted to bring you
remember
guys, there wasn't a very large staff report because we had a meeting with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ron last Thursday. We wanted to make sure they were okay with us talking publicly about some of what we've been talking about privately over the last few months. So we've been meeting with them since they purchased the property in 2015. I think the last joint city council, tribal council meeting was back in May, and we went down to their reservation down there in next to the Spirit Mountain. So kind of where we left it at that meeting was they had previously been exploring moving that Wood Village into the federal trust for the purposes of gaming. They indicated that they were not pursuing that at this time. They'd kind of shelved that, and they were wanting to explore other options. They had looked at a sale. They decided they wanted to keep it and kind of develop it and update their highest best use analysis. So a little bit more background. Town Center Master Plan has been developed, and I think the last update we had was more than 10 years ago. But this was the original master plan. You can see here, Riverwood South had not yet been built. We have secured this area for a wetland park. But these areas have developed since the master plan went in. There's still, the idea was primarily to have this mixed use with an entertainment emphasis with some mixed use residential and mixed use with commercial emphasis. So this is an excerpt from, I think, 2012 of when the plan documents were last updated. So that's kind of been the vision. There's also a strip here, like a linear park. So even absent the park property that we purchased, there were still some kind of conceptual, we wanted to have some green space. And this was a plaza space, kind of a bigger version of what's between the buildings and Fred Meyer and the Kohl's, and also the requirements that now that Chipotle and Chick-fil-A are in, kind of the similar public plaza, public space. So this is what is currently adopted for our town center master plan. So highest and best use that was updated by the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde was their conclusion they came to was they wanted a multi-story, multi-building apartment complex as the anchor. They looked at a hotel and an upscale hotel, and their analysis, they shared the summary with us. We didn't get the full details, but they said there is demand for hotel facilities, but their analysis was the economics weren't favorable for that. They said demand was high, but they didn't think it could pencil. it's a possibility, but it's one that didn't rise to the top of their ladder. And then they noted that while family entertainment is a viable option, the comparators that they were able to look at within the area have all been remodels of former big box retailers that have gone out of business. There aren't a lot of examples of that being built as a new construction and having that pencil out, or the economics of that pencil out. So that was what they shared with the highest and best use. Obviously, we have our own ideas, and so we've been in conversations. Going back to our favorite topic of fire, we had mentioned at that May meeting that we had with them, we were looking at wanting to explore options for a temporary fire station along one of the major arterials. So this is something that Greg sent over. This is the northwestmost portion of their property. This is the mobile home park immediately to the north. We were looking at 1 acre to 1.25 acres for a temporary fire station made up of living quarters, garage, and office space. So we've been meeting with them monthly since then to kind of keep them abreast of what's been going on in our discussions with Gresham. They have said they've had discussions with their tribal council, and they are interested in this concept. We sent over a proposed lease rate within what we found was within the market. They thought that was very reasonable. Kind of particulars to be determined once we actually started moving forward with a signed lease. And they are interested in doing a signed lease of at least 5 years with a 5-year option. So that was some of the conversations that had progressed up through September time. Most recently, we've also been in conversations with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. Greg had talked to them, and they had been looking at they have the Sheriff's Office, now that they are no longer housed in, part of their offices are no longer housed in Troutdale. They had a long-term lease, the old City Hall site there, I believe. They are currently scattered amongst 3 to 5 buildings across East County, none of which are particularly well-suited to expansion or to consolidation. They have approached the Tribes of Grand Ronde, and we've had, I think, 2 or 3 meetings with them jointly, because they are interested in purchasing, or not necessarily purchasing, but 10 to 12 acres to put in a public safety campus to consolidate all their operations. So, and they're wanting to sign a long-term lease, potentially a 50-year lease on that. And the Tribes of the Grand Ronde are amenable to that. So they asked Greg to kind of say, hey, if with this public safety campus idea, and what year, this is the piece right here that it was on the last slide, that northwest corner of the property. And so the Sheriff's Office is interested in this whole area. Where it kind of falls north-south is kind of going to be determined, TBD, but they kind of put their needs out there. And this was Greg's response of, and looking at your highest best use and looking at our master plan, what might something that incorporates a public safety campus on that site look like? And so there would be multifamily, commercial, and some sort of entertainment or hotel option is kind of what Greg sent to them as a preferred, that would be in keeping with the spirit of what was included in the master plan that was adopted. So those are conversations that we've been having. Again, we checked with the Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Sheriff's Office to make sure that it was okay to share this in a public meeting. Nothing's been finalized, but this would be a big shift in, this is the last major undeveloped parcel within Wood Village. The hope in any urban renewal agency is that you get a lot of really high value industrial construction in there to generate that tax increment revenue. You don't necessarily want to lock up a big portion of your land for a public facility because it takes it off the tax rolls. At the same time, having a sheriff's office consolidated and having their campus in Wood Village does bring a lot of benefits to the community. So there's trade-offs, and we wanted to make sure to bring this to you early on to hear what your thoughts and concerns were on that. Just as kind of an update on the timeline of what we're working at. The sheriff is looking at, again, consolidating operations. They've done some of their own financial analysis. They've met as an executive team. Their executive team is behind it. They've decided to move towards taking this to their commission. They don't feel like there's much of a budgetary impact. They feel like they can lease and build this at roughly the same annual cost as what all of their existing leases would be. So they don't feel like this is a huge monetary ask. It's more of a decision point that they would need to get buy off. Now, all of that being said, we love the sheriff's office. It is the most effectively functioning part of the county, and we love them. They're also within part of a bigger bureaucracy that has its own facilities and planning and portion. So we're not real sure if they can move quickly or if it's going to run over decades to get to this point. So they are going to take this to their commission sometime soon. They already have the materials prepared. They just need a date for when they're going to present that. Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, again, they've been having conversations with their tribal council. They want to see some movement on the site in 2026. They suggest that they would like to know from us by March whether or not we're serious about wanting to put a fire station in on that site. And we want to move towards a lease with at least some paperwork being exchanged, moving towards finalization in May. Like that's kind of in their ideal world. We would be able to have an answer at least on the fire station piece by then. And I've let them know where we're at in the task force and hoping by that point we would have an answer from Gresham on whether or not they can staff and operate that as part of the IGA that we have with them for fire service. So these are kind of that's kind of where we're at. I'm going to pause there before I get into the next steps to see if you guys have any questions that I can answer. Again, this has been something that's been in the works since May, and Greg's been having a lot of conversations. I've been reading his emails and been sitting in on some of the financial parts of that, so I'll answer what I can, knowing that just with a caveat that there are some things that nobody has an answer to at this point, but I will do my level best to assuage any concerns or take anything back into those conversations.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if we put if we move forward and put the temporary fire station, that's going to be conflicting with where the sheriff would want it. No?
No, the sheriff didn't think that, I think that they would like as much space as they can get. The part that they had parceled out was 15 acres and they were looking for 10 to 12. So I think that, again, where that horizontal.
Back to the picture. Wasn't that the whole spot?
That's just included, the whole public safety campus. If you go back.
So yeah, this would be the fire, but the public safety campus would be that plus.
He's just encompassing that whole thing as a
I get
public
it.
safety campus.
Oh, sorry.
So the fire station would be a small piece.
The sheriff,
No,
but
no.
public safety
Yeah.
in general.
In general, yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
No, that's okay.
Well, yeah, it's blue here,
yeah.
but
Should have.
Red was taken up by commercial.
I was reading the sheriff's office
Yeah.
question.
and
No,
correlating with public
Yeah.
I know we're
safety, not.
calling it a temporary fire station. It's temporary buildings.
correct.
Yes.
And if it goes, it's a permanent fire station. And that's the intent, to
Mhm.
reduce response time in the area. So anyway.
Yeah.
It's at least Grand Ronde knows where they're at.
Yes.
They're pretty, it sounds to me like pretty definitive here. It's apartments. It's residential. And that's what they want to do with it.
I think the residential piece, this yellow area
And it's,
would be the first part that they would want to do. And then the next one they've talked about has been
Commercial.
this commercial area. And they've asked the question about whether or not our code allows for drive-throughs along there. And so we're working on getting them an answer on whether that would be something that's permittable under the current plan or whether they'd have to go to planning commission or council.
It's not.
And there's still, I mean, we got that purpled in there for the entertainment. They're not
That's-
sure about that.
They're not sure about that, but I think just in discussing their timeline, they would want to get this under lease. And then work on, sounds like they're not interested necessarily in selling off parcels. They want to keep it all in. So I think that they would want to get some mixed use residential here with maybe some walk-in commercial here and generate some leasable pads for businesses along here as kind of the first step. And then it sounds like this area would kind of be phase 2 or be on the back burner until they started getting the public safety campus, the multifamily and
Well, I think that will probably be driven by the residential needs, public safety, commercial. I'm just, hearing it for the first time. Conceptually, I don't have any problem with it.
And I look at this as
Conceptually.
a win because, this is, they asked Greg to kind of put something together, right? Off the current master plan and for them to say, yeah, that works. Yeah. Timeline will be dependent on certain factors, but to get, commercial, multi-residential and an entertainment piece, I think that did hit a lot of what the original master plan was meant for. So I think adding the public safety campus on there is just kind of the cream of the crop.
Oh,
And so I think that's probably
I think it's
the best
We're gonna
thing.
have fire and police, our
I-
property. Can we get any kind of breaks going there?
Well,
I
we
mean, really?
just think of all the saturated patrols we can have.
I know.
But I really think that for this community to be able to take that property, that 30 or so acres now, 30, a little less than that, but take that, put a public safety campus in our community, additional housing,
Mhm.
put opportunities for entertainment and some commercial development. And that property then, that center where it shows the potential hotel, if there's residential there, the tribe is not going to leave that looking like
No.
it is right now.
And I think
my
that's,
guess is it'll be developed into maybe some green,
Yeah.
for now, at least better than what it is right now.
Yeah.
and it serves the best place here as it, won't obstruct as they're building up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because it's right behind the
Oh, yeah,
poles and
it's,
everything. And so it provide that perfect opportunity there. So.
When they, where the housing would be, would they finish that road in all the way through there then at that point, or has that got that far, the conversation?
so, we'll move to next steps because we're gonna hit on that in here.
Because I'm gonna go to the traffic on Wood Village Boulevard next is why I'm asking that.
Yes, we will talk about traffic on Wood Boulevard as well, because we have a muck tuck next week. But so the next steps, the first one is we need to get them an answer on the fire station. And to do that, we need to know, is Gresham going to staff it? So we have our task force meeting tomorrow. I've at least raised it with Eric Schmidt and Chief Menard that sounds like they're going to put together some costing numbers. They might not be finalized, but we should be able to at least broach the question of what adding that additional station was cost and could they do it and get something kind of up for discussion. If not at tomorrow's meeting for the one in January, because, we'll let them know of where we're at with the Confederated Tribes. We're going to continue researching trip capacity because they haven't formally asked us, but we're needing to dust off all of the old reports and stuff out of the council to get them good information on what the next steps are. If they wanted to do something like, that's how the question on drive-throughs came up. If they wanted to do that, we can't approve that administratively. They would need to go back to the planning commission or potentially the city council. We think it's close enough to what the original plan was that we wouldn't need to do a full blown new master plan for the site. But again, we're we're working to try and understand that ourselves so we can give them a good answer when they ask. So the other piece that was included in your staff report and kind of what leads into this next conversations on this is so we have an urban renewal area authorized in 2011 that had a maximum indebtedness of 11.7. Yes, $11.7 million. Through the end of June 30th, 2025, we had spent 4.6 million of that. This is going to be, we have, the gas station right between 76 and Wood Village Burrito. We have the Vista View property. Those are undeveloped parcels. Those in total are about 3 acres. This is 24 acres of developable land. It's the lion's share of what's left in the Urban Renewal Agency. And so one of the things that staff wants to do is I think the second January meeting, we want to have that be a joint Urban Renewal Agency City Council meeting. And the topic will be how much is left in the Urban Renewal Agency? What else do we want to do so that we know how much incentives? So the City Council can kind of think about how much of what's left in the Urban Renewal Agency do we want to put into this type of project? What does that look like of what we would want to do? And then also, what are the amenities or the things we are going to ask for as part of that incentive agreement if we choose to move forward with that with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde? So things like, Councilor Minor, is the incentive that we build half or 3/4 roadway through there as part of the public safety campus. And we need that information because we want to have conversations with the sheriff's office about, if they're building this campus, what are they going to have any public amenities? Are they going to have anything that's community centered or community facing, community focused? And how much of that project would tie into that? We are trying to finalize the design of a wetland park, and part of that's delineation of the wetlands because, again, if there's going to be a major development there, we want to be able to work with both the sheriff's office and the tribes of the Grand Ronde so that, with this new plan, maybe it's not a plaza here, and maybe it's not a linear park here. We know that on this portion of the parcel, like this is the wetland's kind of centered kind of like in an egg shape here. So the most developable contiguous space is kind of right here in this area. Do we try and have the public safety campus add on to that if they're going to have some public space? Do we have them move this? Do we move the plaza? Do we want to have a linear connection here? Those are the type of things where there's flexibility within the plan, and we need to know kind of what the ask needs to be to both the sheriff's office and the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde for how do we incorporate all the moving pieces, the fire station, the wetland park development, the public safety campus, and what plans they have for the southern part of that site to make it cohesive and work well together so that we don't end up with potentially 3 or 4 smaller plazas or public spaces. See if we can come up with something that's a little more cohesive and comprehensive and well thought out as we're moving into this process. So the first step in doing that is determining where the Urban Renewal Agency and city are in terms of what resources we're willing to commit to help move this project forward, and what our asks are going to be out of that from both the sheriff's office and the tribes of the Grand Ronde. I feel like I've been talking for an hour and a half. So that's the update. I want to make the first thing is, can we do a joint Urban Renewal Agency City Council meeting for your second January meeting?
I think that'd be appropriate.
Okay. And then
the nature of where we're at right now.
Okay. And what we'll do is we'll put together some, if you guys want to have any discretion and provide us direction now on any of your thoughts for how to approach or what you guys would be interested in, or if you want to just kind of noodle on it and think about it and have some things prepped for that council meeting in January with your renewal agency to talk about.
I don't have any thoughts on it myself right now.
My head's Load.
I mean, I think your initial comments of like that public trade-off, I think is something to consider. So yeah, I think as time gets closer, we can have further discussion on that.
And we do want to have that conversation with the sheriff's office
Yeah.
of, you know,
Yeah.
you're not going to be paying taxes on this. It's going to be taking up a big piece of land. We
Right.
like, we want to have you guys here, but we also want to be mindful of how we develop and how this benefits the community. And
And it's a-
Appreciate next steps you've laid out here, Steph, so.
yeah. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you, Seth. A lot of information there, but well.
Good
well,
information,
good- Yeah,
good
good information. And now we'll go ahead and move to Director of Public Works report.
Mayor, council. So I do not have a presentation for you this month, but we'll make it short and sweet. Last month, we had a lot less projects than we did the month before, which was a very long list, but November is a heavy month for leaves. So the staff did spend a lot of time in the park, clearing all the leaves, clearing the leaf drop. So that consumed a lot of time. And then staff also worked on a bigger project over on Walnut with a storm line, which we slightly touched on last month. But they found that a huge portion of the line was filled with just roots, completely full of roots. In this process of replacing that line, they were actually able to fix a sewer line that was sagging before that became an issue for a customer. And then there was also the water line for that same house was just engulfed in tree roots. So they were able to cut that service free and replace that. So mitigate any future issues for that household, which was nice. And then also in this project, we found out that some of our mapping and kind of just plans that we found in the past were inaccurate regarding the storm. So kind of a future project that we're going to look at to help with some storm in that area. So those were good. And then as you can see, as you drove up tonight, all of the Christmas decor, prepping for this last weekend. So that was very nice. And then staff actually took a APWA winter course as well. So just prepping for inclement weather and sanding materials, chains, how to drive, just kind of how to deal in general and maintenance on fleet and all of that for inclement weather. So that is what kind of big highlights from last month. Any questions?
Questions coming by the council?
No, I just noticed there's a permit for a cha-cha noodle house
Yeah,
over there.
when's that gonna open?
So
Soon?
I think it's, they're still in the permitting
Permitting,
process,
okay.
so they haven't started, tenant improvements yet.
Highways.
It's the same owner as, Sushi Ninja though, so don't hold your breath, it'll be quick.
well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So
I've got one more thing.
Yes.
Where I live on Hawthorne,
Mm-hmm.
there's a big bubble in the road. I don't know if anybody's looked at it, but the guys drive over it all the time. So I
That has
imagine
actually
they
been
noticed it.
a topic of discussion for us recently. So
There's
we're
gotta be something. under
looking
there.
into that a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
just a quick thanks, called Seth the other day after our morning walk on Wood Village Boulevard. And the crew picked up that big old bag of garbage and
It was big.
it was, yeah.
Yes.
Starting to break open. And so, thanks.
Well, thank you guys for your hard work.
Thank you.
And
Getting
then,
ready for the winter.
yeah, hopefully it doesn't hit hard. City of Attorney report.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the 26 years.
No.
So thank you, thank you.
Jeff.
Last thing, we don't have another council meeting until January 13th. And then makes the community toy giveaway is this Saturday, the 13th, starting at 9 a.m. At the Wood Village Baptist Church. If you are able to join, I think it's just show up. I think volunteers as early as 8:30. Any questions? I think Deputy Volker is the one, or maybe Caroline can help answer any questions on there. With that, happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
You know, if I can have just maybe your about 5 minutes here, you're going to get a present. So I just want to let you know, I appreciated my absence over the last 3.5 months. And one of the things that I did, you know, where we're seeing historical places and sites along the way in about almost close to 10,000 miles. Charlene and I were just talking about a trip she made similar to that. But I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and visited Graceland. And where I have never visited, but I know my sister was a heck of an Elvis Presley fan, and we made a point to go to Graceland. And if you ever do it, it is a trip, and it is an experience, because one of the things you may know if you've been familiar with Elvis, but Elvis was a musician, but he was also, he bridged the gap in the civil rights era with musicians, black musicians, white musicians. He also, of course, was gospel, but he had an impact on the history of music in this country. And me being a history guy, and me like to read it, I bought everybody a bookmark, an Elvis bookmark for all the history books you're reading. So
Those are the only books I have.
So there's your history, and there's a little bit of Elvis. And it also, what struck me there, see that, take it to, excuse me, that TCB, take it to the limits, do the right thing. And I kind of figured, I looked at those. TCB, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, there it is, yeah.
Taking care of business.
Taking care of business. That was it. Thanks, Charlene. It was.
Stop. But you were on something, so I was gonna let you know.
Paraphrase. It was a paraphrase.
Taking care of business. And that was in 1970 when he came out with that kind of message with his new band. And it was about taking care of business. So I saw that and I thought, you know, we're a little bit like Elvis and the group. We're trying to take care of business. So enjoy the Elvis.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. So
Well, John, luckily you were a history major and not an English major, because business is spelled with a B, not an L. So,
taking care of business.
yeah.
Well, I wasn't.
Your other, what you said before is.
Well, yeah, you know, that's, you know what, now. Becky, we do back.
You know, John, when you're in a hole, stop.
Yeah, you just need to stop. He said, when you're on hold, stop digging.
Yeah. Didn't know I was in a hole.
All right, well,
All right, well, thanks.
thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
And however you celebrate your
that's
holidays.
right.
Oh, yes.